Americans, my fellow Kentuckians, sons and daughters of this enduring republic, patriots who still believe in the old truths that once bound us together as one people under God. Let us speak plainly and without evasion tonight, as free men and women must when the republic stands at a crossroads and the light of truth flickers under assault. I have said it before, time and again, and I will say it until my voice fails or the dawn breaks. Our government's priorities have changed. They have not merely shifted through the natural give and take of debate, they have been captured, perverted, and wielded against the very citizens who sustained this nation with their labor, their faith, and their blood. And from this deep betrayal flows the wound we all feel that our nation has become increasingly divided, torn by artificial fractures of resentment and ideology, while the ruling class, ensconced in their enclaves of privilege, has grown dangerously out of touch with reality, blind to the struggles of ordinary families, deaf to the pleas of border towns overrun, and indifferent to the quiet erosion of the moral and economic foundations that once made us strong. Yet let there be no misunderstanding, no twisting of words by those who profit from confusion. I, Seth Winslow Young, affirm without apology or qualification the truth of American strength and power. I affirm an America that leads the world by dictating the terms of the international order, not through conquest or coercion, but through the undeniable authority earned by generations of sacrifice, ingenuity, moral courage, and unyielding resolve. We are the indispensable nation, the arsenal of democracy, the last best hope for those who yearn for freedom. Our military must stand second to none, a deterrent so formidable that aggression dares not test it. And our energy must flow abundantly from American wells and fields, freeing us from the blackmail of foreign cartels and returning prosperity to American homes and to my fellow Kentuckians, to the Kentucky families who once powered the nation with coal and spirit. Our trade must be forged in the interest of the American worker, not globalist middlemen. Our alliances must serve our security interests, not drain our treasure for endless entanglements and conflicts. When America speaks, the world must listen. Not because we crave empire, but because of one thing. We refuse to kneel before tyrants or fashionable illusions. Peace through overwhelming strength is not bravado. Rather, it is the solemn duty of a free people, a people who remember what weakness invites in their own homes. This is no new creed for me. My philosophy has remained steadfast through every storm. From the first day I entered this fight, I have held these truths to be self evident and unchanging in my beliefs that sovereignty begins at the border, and a nation without secure frontiers is no nation at all. We must finish the wall, deploy technology and manpower, end catch and release, and enforce the law so that our communities, our homes, our neighborhoods are safe and our sovereignty is respected. Not till next quarter, not until after the next election, but as the permanent foundation of our republic itself. That American workers deserve jobs that pay living and sustainable wages, not competition into sweatshops abroad or mass migration that depresses pay and strains resources. What I say is simple: bring manufacturing home, impose tariffs that protect our industries, and reward companies that invest in American labor so that both here in Kentucky as well as abroad, a father can look at his son in the eye and can proudly say that there is honest work here for you, son, and that there is a future worth building here. And what comes with that is energy dominance in our national security imperatives. We drill here. We build pipelines here. We unleash nuclear and clean coal where it fits. We end the war on the state's energy, and we put power back in the hands of producers, not bureaucrats in distant capitals who have never felt the chill of a mountain winter or the pride of a coal miner's calloused hands. We must reaffirm that education must always transmit truth, not indoctrination. That they must teach real history, the triumphs and trials of this exceptional republic. And from that, we cultivate virtue, critical thinking, and patriotism. And above all, we protect our children from radical ideologies that confuse, divide, and diminish the individual and the spirit of the child. Our schools are not laboratories for social experiments. They are and always will remain the nurseries of the next generation of free men and women. And the underlying root of all of these principles, the underlying ideology within this philosophy is that life is sacred. Life is sacred from conception to natural death. That we shall defend the unborn. We shall support our mothers and our fathers. We shall support our families. And we shall build a culture of life, one that honors every human person made in the image of God. No exceptions, no compromises, and no apologies. For we all know these things to be true, and we know that these things are a pillar in maintaining a society and a community that is able to stand strong even in the darkest of times. And that pillar is the idea of the family, that the family is the first and irreplaceable school of virtue. And as a result, it is the bedrock of society itself. We must strengthen marriages. We must protect parental rights. And we must resist every assault on the natural order of male and female wherever it may sprout up. Because when the family falls, the republic falls in due time. And may our faith, particularly the Christian heritage that shaped our founding, once again sprout up in the public square. Once again, not be banished to private corners. That prayer, liberty, and moral clarity are not relics of yesteryear, but rather they are the oxygen of a free society. And they are the anchor that keeps us from drifting into the abyss of relativism. And above all, we put God first. We put the Lord Jesus Christ first, not as a mere invocation at the end of a speech, but as the ultimate sovereign, whose laws transcend the decrees of man, whose justice judges every policy, and whose mercy alone can heal a divided land. Without acknowledgement of him, no policy will endure. No nation will thrive. And no civilization will survive the tempests of history. Mind you, these are not passing opinions or campaign talking points. These are endured and tried truths, rooted in reasoning, revelation, and the accumulated wisdom of centuries. They have not changed because of the modern fashions or of the polling. They remain because truth does not bend, truth does not yield, and truth does not negotiate with the spirit of the age. Rather, truth demands that we confront uncomfortable realities as well. And one reality must be stated clearly: the radical left has plunged into utter dysfunction, a fevered ideology divorced from the lived experience of the American people. They open borders to chaos while families bury children lost to fentanyl. They erase biological reality in the name of inclusion, robbing women of fairness and safety in sports, shelters, and in prisons. They chase trillion-dollar fantasies of green utopias that only inflate costs, crush opportunity, and leave, especially here in my home state, Kentucky, coal miners and factory workers in the cold, literally and figuratively. All the while pretending compassion excuses the destruction of lives and of livelihoods. Their vision is not one of liberation, it is unraveling. It is, simply put, a rejection of the natural law, a rejection of the common good, and a rejection of the covenant that once united us across generations. Nor can we spare the mirror of our own side, of our own party at this moment. The Republican establishment, once was the voice of the forgotten, has too often grown complacent in its power. They thunder against the left on elective eve. They retreat to the same donor dinners, the same foreign policy inertia that bleeds our treasure and our sons for wars with no clear victory in sight. And that same cultural timidity that surrounds the classroom, the boardroom, and the courtroom without a fight. Their interests have drifted from the nation's vital interests: secure borders, bartered for cheap labor, and corporate profit. Sovereignty is traded for globalist applause at Davos and Brussels. And the moral clarity that is so crucial to a nation itself is surrendered to avoid controversy or losing a seat at the table. In short, the career class on both sides and both parties have become a permanent fixture, more loyal to the system than to the people they say they serve. They are more attuned to the next fundraising dinner or the next election cycle than they are to the next century of Americans' destiny. And here, my fellow citizens, is where the deeper sickness reveals itself. And that sickness that warps not just policy, but our very capacity to think and govern as a great people must. The American way has become a way of speed, access, and control. From the daily news cycle that spins us from outrage to outrage in 24-hour loops, to the revolving doors of trends that sweep across our culture like seasonal storms. Today's viral cause, tomorrow's forgotten hashtag. We see only what is right in front of us. We chase the immediate headline, the instant poll, the next quarterly earnings report, the fleeting applause of the digital mob. We live in the tyranny of now, where yesterday's sacrifice is ancient history and tomorrow's consequences are someone else's problem. When it comes to diplomacy and government, this rhetoric and public opinion has no different filter. Politics is, as it always has been, a pinion in the cultural machinery of modernity, grinding away at the short-term levers of power while the long arc of history bends unnoticed. We sign treaties that last a news cycle. We craft budgets that expire before the ink dries. And we celebrate wins measured in press conferences rather than in the strength of our children's inheritance. This worldview has warped our ability to understand and plan, not in months or years, but in decades and centuries. We have forgotten how to think like founders, like pioneers, like the statesmen who planted oaks whose shade they knew they would never sit under. Instead, we planted annual flowers for the next election photo op, then wonder why the forest withers. My fellow citizens, look around you. Our infrastructures crumbles while we argue over the color of the ribbon at the groundbreaking. Our debt balloons into the tens of trillions, mortgaging our grandchildren's future for today's comforts. And our alliances fray because we treat them as transactional tweets rather than generational covenants. Our culture, once a beacon of ordered liberty, churns through moral fashions so rapidly that truth itself becomes just another disposable trend. The radical left exploits this speed to push their revolution before the people can catch their breath. The timid establishment accommodates it because short term stability preserves their seats. And the American people, exhausted by the blur, lose the habit of looking further ahead to the kind of nation our descendants will inherit in 2050, in 2100, in the centuries when our names are dust, but our choices still echo. This short term fever is not a strength, it is a slow but radical surrender. It is the opposite of the America First vision I have always championed. True American power is not reactive, it is strategic, it is deliberate. It is not one in a frantic mindset, but one that is enveloped in strategy and precision. It builds for the long obedience of a free people, fortifying borders that will stand for 100 years, forging an economy that compounds prosperity across generations and bloodlines, educating citizens here who carry the torch of liberty when we are dead and gone, and above all, maintaining a military so dominant that no adversary dares to test our grandchildren. It plans in centuries because empires rise and empires fall on the patience of their vision, not the panic of their polls. This is why real change cannot come by retaining the same power players whose priorities no longer align with the national interests. When leaders serve donors over daughters, lobbyists over liberty suffers as a result. Renewal requires new blood, new courage, new accountability. Not a revolution through violence, but a restoration through profound resolve and strategy, precision and a tactical application that shows stewardship and discipline and thinking in the long term. In that mindset, we must enact term limits to break the grip of careerism that thinks only as far as the next term goes. We must reform primaries to reward fighters and visionaries over fundraisers and caretakers. And we must close the revolving door between government and corporate power and force radical transparency so the people can see who truly pulls the strings. And most American of all, we must return power where it belongs, to the families, to the communities, and to all of those who live with the consequences for decades after the politicians have moved on to their next gig. We need leaders who will stand before you and say, I am thinking about the nation in 2075 as clearly as I am thinking about next November. Leaders who measure success not by retweets, but by the strength of the covenant that they pass forward. Leaders who understand that diplomacy is not a game of immediate optics, but the patient architecture of a world order where American interests and the interests of ordered liberty prevail across generations. Consider the hour we inhabit. Borders breached by design, families strained by inflation, engineered in our capitals, and schools that are captive to ideologies that will scar our children for life. Our faith mocked as bigotry. Adversaries are emboldened because they see a superpower distracted by its own reflection. Our energy independence slips away because short-term politics favors virtue signals over long-term dominance. And our manufacturing base, the heart and soul that helped industrialize this nation to make it a global power, that manufacturing base erodes because quarterly profits matter more than century-long security. As a result, our young people inherit debt and doubt instead of opportunity and conviction. Yet I say to you now, I refuse despair. I refuse the counsel of those who sit and say the republic is finished, or that the covenant is broken beyond repair. That the speed of our age has outrun our capacity to govern wisely or to apply principle into the modern day of relativism. No, I say that we are heirs to Valley Forge's endurance, where men froze and fought for a freedom that they would not live to enjoy. I say we are heirs to Gettysburg's resolve, where brother stood against brother, yet the Union endured for generations yet unborn. We are heirs to Normandy's sacrifice, where boys from Kentucky, West Virginia, Appalachia, the North, the South, the East, the West, white, black, it did not matter. From the hollows to the hills, from the main street all the way up to the urban areas. Our boys stormed those beaches so that tyranny would not claim the 20th century, let alone the 21st century. And in our Commonwealth here today, in Kentucky, we know the grit of Appalachian mountain folk who carved life from stone and timber. The steadfastness of river towns, one here today in this district along the banks of the Ohio River that rebuilt after flood and fire. The quiet strength of horse country and of coal fields where families still teach that tomorrow is worth preparing for even when today is hard. That spirit sleeps in too many hearts, but it lives. It lives in the Kentucky mother who works 2 jobs so her children can have more than she had when she was a child. It lives in the veteran who still salutes the flag through Washington, and though Washington has forgotten why he fought. It lives in the small business owner who plans not for the next quarter, but for the next generation, for his son to take the reins. And it lives in every church pew and every family table where the old truths are still spoken aloud and unashamed. Let us awaken it once more. Let us rise in this purpose, not one in anger, but one that demands accountability, righteousness, and above all, restoration of the true ideals and values that were destined for each and every one of us Americans. We demand leaders who fight unapologetically for the long view, for secure communities where crime fears the law again for 100 years. Thriving economies where work compounds dignity across decades, and truthful schools that form souls for eternity. Principled foreign policy where strength deters war, not just today, but for our great-great-grandchildren. This is America first. Engagement on our terms, resolve without retreat, conviction without compromise, and vision without the blinders of the immediate gratifications. The choice before us is stark and solemn. One, we can continue down the road of speed, access, and control, led by those whose priorities serve the moment and themselves. One into division, decline, and eventual irrelevance. Or we can choose renewal, choose strength that lasts, choose sovereignty that endures, choose the truths that do not bend with the wind or the algorithm. Choose faith that anchors families, that multiply, work that builds legacies, and truth that defends absolutely. And above all, a nation under God that remains the last, best hope on earth, not for a season, but for ages to come. I stand before you here and now, ready to fight for that hope. I stand with you, the workers, the parents, the young Americans. I stand with the children. I stand with the elderly. I stand with all who believe that the American dream is not dead. It took a nap, and we need to awaken it once more. I believe in the might and the power of the American man and woman. I believe in America itself, and I believe that the virtues instilled in us, instilled into each and every one of us, of those who still have the underlying truths of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, know and can reaffirm what I am about to say, that it rests upon us to restore this American dream. That the idea of the American experiment is not one of failure, but it is also not one that has passed with flying colors. It relies on the application of the students, and us, the citizens of this nation, are those students. It relies on our resolve to pick ourselves up, brush ourselves off, and to say to the threats positioning themselves around us, I didn't hear a bell. We will win. We will fight. And if we die for the right for our kids and our grandkids to hold those same truths to be self-evident. So let the word go forth from this time and place, from every town square in Kentucky to every heartland city and coastal shore, that this remnant, this idea, this view, this covenant, this goal that we are going to achieve rises. The covenant renews, that covenant being our destiny for greatness, for application of the universal truths Christ gave to us 2,000 years ago. That the Republic, through this application, endures, because truth once more endures, and because vision endures, because we choose to look further ahead and build for the centuries that will judge us. America first, Kentucky first, God first, forever. Long live these United States. Long live the truths that made her great. And long live the people who will keep her so, not for today alone, but for all the tomorrow yet to come. I am Seth Winslow Young, unbowed, unbought, fighting for you, fighting for the truth, fighting for the long view, and fighting for the America we love and will pass forward. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.